marvellous experience for the many, many volunteers here. St John's Ambulance have got about 1,200 people. And the medical director of the London Marathon, he's got a staff of well over 100, and let's hope that not too many of them will be called upon today. There's one of the many firemen running. 14,437. 14437. Jeffrey Martin, he's gone all the way from New Zealand. Well, it says New Zealand on our caption here on the computer, but he actually lives in Collier's Wood. And he's not a fireman, he's an accountant. So, deciding to wear the fireman's helmet. 17775. Boy, will he be hot. Daniel Sims from Sidcup. Well, you remember the song, Run the World? That's two of them there. So creeping further and further behind the elite runners. 11:45. Two different times on that one. I'm not sure which one we're looking at, but it is 11:45, and of course the elite runners have been out on the road quite some time, but still the Curry Sark, the focus of attention for so many thousands of runners. Remember, it took what, 12 minutes for them to get out of the park. There we go. A couple of Red Indians there. A long, long way to go, though, for these runners. They'll be out there for about 4 or 5 hours yet.
And Anita Hackenstadt just gone through 19 miles, 1 hour, 47 minutes and 42 seconds. And we're looking carefully down the road because McColgan is beginning to close down on the second placer. Liz McColgan's moved into third place. She's pulling away from Angelina Kanana, who she's been running with, and now she's closing down on second place. There's second place, and here comes Liz McColgan. Liz McColgan certainly beginning a run in the second half of this race, and she'd be very happy that she's just beginning to pull away from Angelina Kanana. And now the confidence boost that Liz will get when she overtakes Sultanova. But in the marathon, once you're slow, it's inevitable. The slow just goes on, and there's nothing you can do about it. Liz McColgan through 19 miles now. And I sense that Liz McColgan is beginning to close on the leader too.
Well, certainly is the one who's motoring, closing all the time on the second athlete, but the leader still looking very, very strong. Meanwhile, in the men's race, the pack still together. Russo on the far side of the blue cap, Kabiga on the near side, the Kenyan. Paul Evans is right there as well. Hallie Brook of Belgium. Castro, Portugal. Silva of Mexico. I'm just looking for the champion for the past 2 years, Saran. I think he's in that pack. He's wearing one if you can spot him. The women's race. Well, Liz McColgan beginning to boil. She's dropped the Kenyan. She's moved into second place. The Kenyan's gone third, Kanana. The leader still a long way in front, though. Still looking strong. It looked about 15, 16 miles. She was going through a bad patch. And news from the course is the gap is down to 45 seconds, we're told.
Well, there's Hackenstadt there, now Liz McColgan in second place, and Hackenstadt is certainly running slower in this second half. Since she got past halfway, she's run some of her slowest miles, and Liz McColgan, obviously her race plan was to attack in the second part of the race, and she'll have a tremendous confidence boost just there, overtaking the second placer, moving into second place herself, and then at the same time running away from Angelina Kanana, who's run faster for a marathon than Liz McColgan, and just pulling away from the one who she's been running with, and at the same time overtaking Sultanova. Then confidence must be sky high. Now the question is, can Hackenstad keep this going? And as we look from above, we can see Hackenstad, and then down the road we're looking at the gap, a couple of 100 meters, and there's Liz McColgan in second place. So for the first time in the women's marathon, then Liz McColgan will have the leader in her sights, and at times she's been over 2 minutes ahead, but that gap is now certainly beginning to close.
In the men's race, a dramatic break. The pack's been split suddenly by Eddie Hellebrook, the Belgian. Ranked to be the number 2 Belgian. Rousseau, his teammate, one of the favourites, is in second place with a chasing pack, but Hellebrook has gone for broke. He's certainly accelerated very, very hard indeed. Bit of a gamble, Brendan, but he's got the gap.
It certainly is a bit of a gamble, and it certainly takes a little bit of doing when a man like Eddie Hellebrook looks around and he sees the quality of the opposition in that group, and then to have the confidence and the composure to suddenly take it on yourself and then attack, then that certainly does take a bit of doing. But Eddie Hellebrook obviously going well at halfway, and now beginning to decide that this is his attempt to see if he can make his name, put his name in the record books and do something in this London Marathon today.
Meanwhile, in the group behind Hellebrook, there's Rousseau, Kabiga of the Kenyan, Silva of Mexico, Serrano of Spain, Castro of Portugal, Paul Evans of Great Britain, and I think Must is the champion wearing number 1, Serron. Well, at the moment, the Belgian number 2 is going away from the group, and nobody's taken up the chase.
Well, he's attacked very quickly. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of mile split he's done there. But there's Eddie Hellebrook, and in the chasing group they're all there. There's Rousseau, Serron, Paul Evans doing a great job staying in that leading group. He's by far the leading Briton now, and Paul Evans just has to stay in that place to assure a selection for the Olympic Games for the marathon, and that's a selection that he's pretty keen to take up. But there's Eddie Hellebrook, the number 2 Belgian. The Belgian selectors have told him you've got to run faster than 2 hours, 10 minutes and 45 seconds to assure selection for the Olympic Games in Atlanta later this year. And quite honestly, at this pace he's going to go well under 2 hours 10:45, because at the moment they're running around about 2 hours 8 minute pace.
Just behind the leader, though, there's quite a battle going on, with Serron, the champion, beginning to show and beginning to chase as well. Rousseau is there, Kabiga, Castro, Silva of Mexico.
Well, we're going to go to Tower Bridge now, and the cobblestones, which none of the wheelchair competitors like, but this time the 3 guys are still there. David Holding, Jack McKenna and Ivan Newman seem to be coping with them extremely well. This is where the organisers always lay a carpet down, but nevertheless it's a very tough part of the course indeed at 22 miles.
Yes, you always find that the cobbles, the carpet actually slows you down, but it makes it a little bit easier to get over there. David's looking good. This is the only marathon that he's actually going to do this year. He's going to take his mileage down and concentrate on the Paralympics, which are in Atlanta in August. Ivan Newman's looking good in second place. Jack McKenna's one tough cookie. He's an ex-army guy there in third.
Well, now dramatic developments in the women's race. The leader, the Norwegian, been there for so long, is fading rapidly, and Liz McColgan's catching her. They're now within sight of each other. The last mile by the leader was 6:02, so she's slowing rapidly. McColgan must realise that, and there's nothing more encouraging than when you run a fairly even-paced race, got it right, and you can see the leader, well, struggling.
And then the confidence will be soaring with Liz McColgan. She had a boost just a few miles ago when she got rid of Kanana, who I thought was going to be one of the dangers, and now Liz McColgan can sense slowing. She's feeling pretty good. She's run the race plan that she decided beforehand, take it easy in the first part and then try and do the damage in the second part of the marathon. And it's an imperceptible slowing by Hackenstadt, but it's definitely every mile just got slower and slower beyond halfway. And like I said, you never can run people have never run personal best at halfway and continue to do personal best all the way. And there's McColgan now working for it, just slowly. And there's no incentive to go past quickly. Keep your mind, get the drinks, get the water and cool yourself down, and then now take the psychological boost, and that's a big one.
Tremendous. She's closing all the time. I wish we'd been able to get McColgan's mile splits, but the mile splits have always been the leaders, but she'll be the leader in a moment. Doesn't even pause to glance.
That was a good effort in concentration. She didn't even look. She saw her opposition miles ago. She knew she was going to catch her, and now she's gone ahead. And what will happen to Hackenstadt now? Liz McColgan has got a sense in her eyes. You can see, look, the concentration there. Nothing's affecting her. And she says the only difference between running the marathon in Tokyo or in New York or in London, the distance is the same, the roads are the same, but when I run in London, they all shout for me and support me all the way around. And certainly now that they know that Liz McColgan is now leading in the marathon, then when they get around the Tower Hotel, she'll get fantastic support, and certainly she deserves it. Liz McColgan on her way now.
Well, the long-time leader's suffering. Hackenstadt, and Liz McColgan is advised nowadays by Greta Weitz, who's cut down on McColgan's mileage, and she's also been doing more strength work, and it's certainly showing.
And she's now flowing. She looks good. She looks strong. Barring accidents, this could be Liz McColgan's first victory in the London Marathon.
Well, the men's race is still locked together. Kabiga and Russo. The men through 17 miles. Last mile run in 5:04. But all this group now are beginning to think about racing.
Well, the big difference between this race and the women's race is the women's race went off an unusual pattern, but this men's race has gone off at a familiar pattern. Good pacemaker to halfway, all the big boys in the group, all the contenders in the group, and then all of a sudden, by surprise, Eddie Hellebuck broke away, opened up a gap, and now we're looking at the main group again. And they're all in there. There's Russo, Ingus Castro, Dionisio Cerron, last year's winner, Herman Silva, the twice winner of the New York Marathon, and I'm delighted to see Paul Evans in there. Paul's worked very hard for his position in athletics. He's got himself together over the last few years, and really he's running with an exceptional group of runners here, and he's running the best race so far that we've seen him. Can he keep it together? Can he keep his form? Can he keep his position? His second place in the New York Marathon last year behind Herman Silva, who's in this group as well, really brought him on a lot. He said it was a great confidence booster to finish second in New York, and now I really want to do well in London. And I hope the crowds on the side of the road recognize Paul and give him the support he deserves, but it's a little bit confusing because there's 4 yellow vests in that leading group.
Time confirmed. 18 miles. 1:28.52. Slowing a little bit in the mile splits, but there's a lot of thinking going on out there as well. Russo looking round to see who's there. They're all there. Looking back in there, Hellebuck has been caught, so that sudden change of pace has not paid off. Russo is now the leader. Serrano right behind him. Castro is there. Kabiga, the Kenyan. Serron is the champion. He's there, and Paul Evans just tagging on the back. Meanwhile, in the women's race, some news of Liz McColgan. She's just run the last mile, Brendan, in 5:27. Dramatic increase on the previous leader's pace.
Well, I said that her confidence would be growing when she got rid of Kanana, the Kenyan, and also caught the long-time leader Hagenstad, but really Liz has just got to control it now. That's not necessary now. It's more important just to conserve it. She's not going for a fast time. This is a stepping stone for Liz McColgan. She's already been selected for the Olympic Games in Atlanta, and her real focus for the year is the Olympic Games in Atlanta, and today, she said, is a stepping stone on the way to that, but she's very, very desperately keen to win the London Marathon. She has been for a couple of years, and she's taken her critics, and when you think about it, she was only 18 months ago that she was told that she would never run again. And as soon as she was told by a surgeon that she would never run again, her response was, okay, well, there's no point spending any more time with you. I'm going to go and find someone else who can tell me I can run again, because whatever happens, I'm not going to get running. And those serious injuries were repaired. She's been in the good hands of physiotherapy, and really, she looks stronger. She's done weight training. She's dropped her mileage a little, which I think has allowed her to recover between training sessions. But what she hasn't lost in all that time is the determination and the concentration. And really now she's got support on the side of the road. She looks strong. A 5:27 mile at this stage of the marathon is an exceptional split time. And so Liz McColgan now on her way back to some of her former glories.
Nice shot of Canary Wharf and the Isle of Dogs. And the men are still bunched together. Saron, twice the champion, one for the past 2 years, wearing one, running wide on the outside. He's an athlete who likes running in the closing stages. Those youngsters won't stay there for long. But Russo's been impressive. Doesn't like the heat. Hallie Book alongside him, the two Belgians together. Number one is Saron. Herman Silva, the other Mexican, is there. Serrano wearing 4 for Spain. The young Kenyan, only 19. Kaviga, digging in there, running faster than he's ever run before. Paul Evans just sticking in behind the group. That's a 19-mile time. And Brenda's just working out what sort of time they'll run to come home.
Well, since the pacemaker dropped out, some of the split times have been a little bit slower. As the runners concentrate on racing rather than on pacemaking, they're just drifting outside 2 hours, 8.5 minutes now. But the race is going to be phenomenal. There's some great finishers in this race. Some of them like to go from a long way out, and 1 or 2 of them would be fancying their chances in the later stages. Vincent Russo is very quick over the late stages of a marathon. We've seen Dionisio Cerrón run very well in the later stages of the marathon, as we have Domingos Castro on the track. And Paul Evans, I'm impressed, is just on the back of that group. Serrano, the Spaniard, in the white vest with the stripes at the back of that group, he's running well too. And Herman Silva is just staying away from them, as he has at all points. But Paul Evans just hanging on the back of that group. He really needs to just concentrate and stay there. And that group now is down to 8 athletes, and almost any one of them can win this race.
In the women's event, Liz McColgan getting back among the crowds. The clear leader, but we've got a new athlete in second place. It's Kanana, the Kenyan. The long-time leader, really struggling now, Hagenstad of Norway. Interesting athlete, this, Kanana. She's got 2 daughters, 7 and 10, lives in Germany, represents Kenya. Didn't realize she needed a visa to enter Britain. The water was more important than the chasing athlete then.
It certainly was, and that's sensible, because you can catch up a few yards when you stop for water, but if you don't take on the water and you become dehydrated, you can't catch up from that. But I think Liz McColgan will be benefiting now from the support. She really has to keep it together. She really has to keep applying herself, but she's never let you down on that score. And there are the split times. The 5:34 split time, that was Liz McColgan's split time there. The one before it, that was the leader, the former leader, Hackenstadt. So Liz McColgan at 22 miles, 55:34, and Liz McColgan now probably realizes that 2 hours 4 for 22 miles, she could go close to her personal best.
Well, the first athletes to come down the Mall, having completed the whole marathon course today, will be the wheelchair athletes, and I just wonder whether the name of Chris Hallam is going to do the record books as the man who's won it most times, twice together with David Holding, because David heading towards a hat-trick of victories. Not far to go, and I can see David Holding there, Chris.
Yes, he's drafting Ivan Newman at the moment, and if it comes down to a sprint finish, you've got to fancy David. He's the sprint middle distance specialist. He's just taken the front, and Ivan's got to at least make a break very, very soon.
Well, as you said earlier, David Holding's only marathon of the year, but he did crash while leading the Portsmouth half marathon recently and finished fourth, so he won't want to make the same mistake again.
This is third place, Jack McKenna. He came in Berlin last year in the same time as David Holding, but obviously they've worked together and they broke him. These two guys do a lot of training together, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put some race tactics in to drop Jack.
Well, Ivan there in the white helmet, he's finished second in the London Marathon twice. Holding has finished first. He knows what it's like to win, and look at the crowds in the Mall. They used to finish, of course, over Westminster Bridge, but now the sprint really on.
Yes, as I anticipated, David Holding going away from Ivan Newman now. He's sprinting in. This has got to make him the best ever. He's coming in for his third London Marathon victory. He's won more road races than any other wheelchair athlete in Britain, more track races than any other wheelchair athlete in Britain. And I'm sure this confirms David as being Britain's #1 overall best wheelchair athlete.
And a word on Ivan Newman as well, perhaps one of the most unlucky athletes in this race. Second for the third time, but the spoils go to David Holding, a hat-trick of wins. Ivan there in second place for the third time, as I said, and it will be Jack McKenna, who will have his best ever finish. There he is. His best ever finish in the London Marathon. His previous best was fourth, so he's going to pick up a winner's medal. And all these athletes now looking forward to the British Olympic trials, along with you, Chris, and the prospects for Great Britain doing well in the Paralympics are looking very good at the moment.
There's McColgan, around 23 miles, going through the tower where a special carpet is laid over the cobbles. And we'll see what sort of lead she's got from Kanana. That's not all that much. Hackenstadt, the Norwegian place. Kanana's working hard, but she's not making too much impression on Liz McColgan. We're told that from the course the gap is around 40 seconds.
Kanana running strongly there. She is running well and moving nicely across the carpet. The benefit of sensible running in the first half. And Liz McColgan just over a minute ahead of Kanana as she goes along the embankment, and now the crowd will get the chance, and Liz McColgan will get the chance just to enjoy stages, but knowing Liz, she'll go as fast as she can, as hard as she can, and she won't release her concentration. And there, in third place, Hagenstadt, the long-time leader, who proved the laws of distance running that you can't set personal bests at halfway.
Well, the leading group at the men, and one's gone down. Might be Serrano of Spain, I think that was. It's quite a heavy fall too. He's at the back of the pack there, he's catching up with them again, but it's done him no good. Just caught a glimpse of him. I thought it was Serrano of Spain, Brendan.
That's exactly who I thought it was, but actually there's a big group. They've been all over the place, and there's Eddie Hellebuck now leading them again from his teammate Russo, then Domingos Castro, and then Herman Silva. And if we
have a look at that fall again, I'm pretty sure that's Serrano. And if it is, he's got back with the pack.
Well, he did what all good distance runners do. He fell down, he rolled over, and he got back up again. That's what they teach you. And he's back in that group.
Well, the general manager of the London Marathon, Alan Story, is with the lead vehicle.
Hi.
Can you hear me, Alan?
Yes, I can. We're going through an area where the reception's probably quite difficult, but I can hear you okay.
Fine. It was Serrano who fell there, was it? It was Serrano who fell there, was it?
Okay, I've got the whole group now. That's Benson Messiah, the other black guy.
Oh, we're clearly having trouble. He said we've got an interference area. It must be. That's Russo leading. Hellebuck in second place. Castro is there. Saron is there. Cabiga, the Kenyan, in the white vest. Serrano's back with them. Silva of Mexico. And Paul Evans still tagging on at the back.
Well, in contrast, just down by Cuddy Sark, the familiar face of Jenny Wood Allen from Dundee, the Dundee flyer. She just took up running back in 1982 when she was 71 years old, the oldest person in the race at 84.
Just checking with the men there, there's an athlete I don't think we've mentioned. He's been covered most of the time, but I think Benson Mash is there, the Kenyan who's run so well in the Great North Run before.
Right at the back of the group there. Very quiet race, but he's certainly in that group, and he's the fastest half marathon runner amongst this lot. 21 miles, 1 hour 44 minutes, and this is a very competitive race. And there he is, number 28, Benson Masha. He's just stayed off the lead all the way, which is unusual for Benson. He normally likes to be amongst the leaders, but he's just cruising along at the back of the group, not doing anything special, glancing over his shoulder, sees Paul Evans, who he's run many times in the Great North Run with, and the two of them at the back of the group. And Benson Masha could be the surprise package here, because he's come into the race very quietly. He's not said much in the press conferences, but when he's at his best on the roads, there are very few better than Benson Masha. So this race, all going to happen now, and it's really, you could be difficult to pick a winner out of this race, but really it's now down to tactics. Eddie Hellebuck, who's broken away a couple of times, is now back into that group. Herman Silva, the Mexican on the inside. Vincent Russo, outstanding track runner amongst this. Domingos Castro, who, remember the '88 Olympic Games, David? It was the saddest fourth place of all time when he was leading all the way and eventually got caught on the finishing line, finished just overtaken for the bronze medal in the 5,000 meters. Well, he's moved up from the 5,000 meters, but he's a class athlete. There's some good runners here. There are some good finishers over the short finish. There are some good sprinters over a long finish. And now, who's going to make the first move?
Well, everyone's having a good look around, but nobody prepared to make a break. There's McColgan through 24 miles, just over 2 miles left. And the road behind her looks empty. Well, the men still tightly locked together. Serrano, Kabiga, Castro, Russo, Hallibook, Paul Evans, Benson Masher. And it's young Kabiga, only 19, who's now making the first move.
Well, usually when you see them running side by side in the marathon, you know that they're just waiting on somebody to make a move, and Kabiga just moved to the front, looked as though he was going to do something, and then just allowed himself to be caught up by the group again, and what he's decided is yet. Serron on the inside. I would suggest that Serron, last year's winner, would have to make a move from a fairly long way out, because there are a couple of these athletes, notably Russo and Castro, who could handle Serron if it came to a very, very short finish. So I think Serron will be making plans in his mind. I think Russo knows he's the class act in this field in terms of track running. Castro can handle himself on the track, and Paul Evans is running a great race right at the back of that group.
I think Benson Masher's just dropped off the pace a little bit. "21 miles, Brendan, 84.04 brings him home in what sort of time?
About 2 hours 8, 2 hours 9 minutes. So they're 5 miles to go in the men's marathon. But I think they're now all forgetting about times. There's no world record on today. There's personal bests for 1 or 2 of them, but that's important in a class race like this to try and win the actual race. So there's going to be some thinking going on now. There's going to be some planning going on, and they're all looking at one another. And these men have run against each other so often that they'll all know about each other's strengths and weaknesses. Particularly, Vincent Russo will know all about Eddie Hallibook. But Kabiga, the leader, he's the unknown package in here. He's the one that's got no real form over a marathon or over great track races, but he's in there, he's in amongst them, and he's running well. There's Eddie Hallibook, the number 2 Belgian, who's well on his way to be selected for the Olympics. Then Vincent Russo, the class track runner amongst these athletes, the one who can't run in the heat. And there's last year's winner, Dionisio Serron. Looks as though he's going to get ready to make his move. And then Antonio Serrano of Spain, one of Spain's top marathon runners, and what a number of top runners they've got these days. Just behind him, Domingos Castro, famed track runner, moved up from the track over the years. His brother holds the world record for 20 kilometers. And then Russo again, and then just at the back of that group, running a great race, Paul Evans, and then Herman Silva. So they're all there. Paul looks as though he's working hard, and this is the closest he's been to the front. And now I sense the pace is just beginning to gather. And Paul Evans is running his way onto the Olympic team, and he certainly will deserve that Olympic selection if it comes. But now they're stringing out. Kabiga stretching them.
While along the embankment, Liz McColgan must be feeling she's set for glory. To win on home soil, a marvellous achievement, and she's timed the race perfectly. Well, they're in 3rd place, just ahead of Harkenstad, the long-time leader, is Joyce Chumba, another Kenyan. Just moving forward to see the 2nd-placed athlete, who should be Kanana. There's a big gap between 2nd, 3rd and 4th. There's Kanana in 2nd place. Meanwhile, up ahead, Liz McColgan.
The difference for me is the experiences that I've had over all different marathons, although they've been in different countries, I'm never aware of what I'm running by because I'm just looking ahead of me. So whether I be in Japan or London or New York or Brazil, anywhere in the world, a marathon's a marathon to me. The thing that makes the London different is the fact that it's the home crowd cheering on you. You can go around the world but they won't be shouting your name. In London, everyone's supporting you and willing you to win, and that's the difference.
Well, there'll be plenty of name shouting now. It's gone through 25 miles. into that final mile, and what a wonderful feeling this must be.
Well, the most impressive part of this run for me is that Liz's last couple of miles have been faster than the very early miles. So she's obviously got the strength to run the marathon. She's obviously benefited from her coaching by Greta Weitz, who Greta just put the lid on her, because Liz was actually starting to destroy herself in training, but now she trains a bit more moderately. She thinks about it a lot more, and certainly on the way to be close to her personal best in this marathon. 5:34 for that last mile along the embankment with a slight wind in her face. As you can see, the trees are just blowing a little, but Liz McColgan's worked for this one, and it'll be a sweet victory for Liz. Had her critics over the years. She was told she should never run again, and then she was told by many pundits in the sport that her best days were behind her, but she told me yesterday she really feels that her best years are ahead of her, and she really thinks that the marathon is her event.
Confirmation of the 25-mile time. There's the shot of the athlete streaming over Tower Bridge, about 12-mile mark, just beyond it. And meanwhile, 10 miles ahead, the leaders. Just going under Tower Bridge and through the Tower of London. Still Kaviga, the Kenyan, trying to press it. And Serran now, the Mexican champion. The man who's won this marathon for the last 2 years, beginning to show strength. Russo dropping off the pace. Paul Evans in 4th place. Serrano of Spain 5. But it's the teenage Kenyan who's really rocking them along. But Serran, Brendan, looking good.
Serran certainly is looking good, and he'll be delighted that the Kenyan is helping with the pace. I mean, the Kenyan started stretching it, started pulling them away. Serran's got the opportunity to follow him for a little, and now just I sense that he's going to start pushing along himself. So he's been helped along there by Kabiga, and now Serran has decided that he's going to try and make a run for it himself. Russo in 3rd place, and then Paul Evans still hanging on there, still battling well into 4th place, and that's an outstanding performance so far.
Liz McColgan in the final mile of the London Marathon. A certain winner now. Just about to enter Birdcage Walk. Long straight stretch in front of her, then a sharp right turn. Passing the front of Buckingham Palace and turning for the short finish in the mile. In the men's race, meanwhile, Serran, as we suspected, is now showing his strength. He looked good when he moved up alongside the young Kenyan, and now he's attacked. He's taken them all apart.
Serran on his way, and Liz McColgan on her way, enjoying the support. And the Flora people were telling me yesterday that their ambition for this London Marathon was to have more people on the roads, more support for charity. They're trying to raise £7 million for charity, but what would top it all would be a British victory, and it looks like they're going to get the reward with a victory for Liz McColgan. But what a sweet victory this will be. Liz's first 2 marathons, and then lost her last 3 marathons, and now Liz McColgan proving her critics wrong and proving that she's still one of the world's leading distance runners. And this first step in Olympic year for Liz McColgan was to try and win the London Marathon. Her coach Greta Weitz has said, you've got to realize, Liz, this is just en route. She's got 800 meters to go now, but she's only en route to what we hope will be some glory for Liz McColgan, the former Olympic silver medalist in the 10,000 meters. And let's hope after today she can go on from here and improve slightly on that in the Olympic Games in the marathon.
Liz McColgan, now 31. Meanwhile, there's quite a race going on for 2nd place. Chepchumba has overtaken Kanana. And last year's winner, Sabinska, in 4th place. McColgan now driving for home. And it's a good time as well. That's the scene that awaits her. She turns in a moment right, from her point of view, into the short finish in the Mall. Buckingham Palace, overlooking the scene. And Liz McColgan, back to form. And winning the London Marathon for the first time. It's been a marvellous comeback story. She's suffered really badly with injuries, was told she'd never run again. So she just found another specialist who didn't say that. Greta Weitz, previous winner herself, one of the great Norwegian marathon runners, advises her now, and that advice has paid off. Liz McColgan of Scotland wins the 1996 Flora Marathon. Win. 2 hours 27:54. One of her fastest times. And she looks very, very good indeed. This is the race for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Chepchumba, the Kenyan, has moved into 2nd place. Takes a look at the watch. Saw Peter McColgan, there's his husband there in the background. International steeplechaser himself. One for the family album. And usually Liz's young daughter is never far away. So for 2nd and 3rd. Developing, and Chepchumba, the Kenyan, now in a clear 2nd place, and the race on for 3rd. Chepchumba, previous best time 2 hours 33, so she's way inside that. Paced the race well, run the 2nd half much faster than the first, I suspect. I think she's the first Kenyan woman to finish in the medals in the London Marathon. And the race for 3rd place. Sabinska of Poland, last year's winner, looks like taking the bronze medal. Chepchumba takes silver. Sabinska being waved towards the finish. And last year's champion is this year's 3rd. In 4th place, Kanana, another Kenyan. Well, we've got quite a race going on in the men's event.
And into the mile any second now. Here she is. It was our long-term leader.
Saron, the reigning champion, the man who's won it for the past 2 years, the only man in history to do so, is away and clear and going for his 3rd title. Kabiga, the Kenyan, has lost out on 2nd place to Paul Evans of Great Britain, who's running the race of his...
Paul Evans there battling it out with Kabiga, and Kabiga just closing down a little bit on Paul Evans. Paul's run a brave race there, and just a glance over his shoulder, and as they both look down the road, they'll see Dionisio Cerrón looks controlled, looks composed, and looks on his way.
I'm just checking on the placings there. I think Kabiga actually is the man chasing Cerrón, and that is the race for 3rd and 4th places. We'll see in a moment. That's Rousseau now. So the placings really getting jumbled up in the closing stages.
Well, this is a significant run for Rousseau because he really isn't a great warm weather runner, and we've got a very warm day here in London, and he's done extraordinarily well to overcome his nervousness and his past performances in the weather to try and take on Dionisio Cerrón, who is one of the top 2 marathon runners in the world. We saw Cerrón in the World Championships take on Martin Fais and lose narrowly in an epic battle in Gothenburg in the World Championships, but he looks altogether different today. He looks more controlled, he looks more composed. And when you come back from a crushing defeat that happened to him in Gothenburg in the World Championships, one always wonders what the next race is going to be like. But Dionisio Cerrón is proving he's still a strong man. He's still able to control himself. He hasn't suffered exceptionally by that defeat. His spirit wasn't broken in Gothenburg, and I think we're seeing Dionisio Cerrón on the way to another victory, a 3rd victory in the London Marathon, and then later this year you'll see him as one of the main contenders in the Olympic Games marathon. So Dionisio Cerrón leading from Vincent Rousseau, and at the moment Paul Evans is battling it out for 3rd place with Kabiga the Kenyan. So there's Kabiga the Kenyan, and just behind him Paul Evans. Paul just losing a few yards there, but Paul won't give up, and this is a run for Paul which will earn his place in the Olympic Games in Atlanta in the marathon. So he'll have a choice after today. Just has to keep going the way he is, and he'll certainly be either 3rd in the London Marathon, but whatever happens, he'll be the 1st Briton in the London Marathon, and we always suggested that that would be the case. So Paul's run true to form, and his 2nd place in New York, when he finished behind Herman Silva in November of last year, has certainly made him come of age as a marathon runner, because let's make no bones about it, this is a very, very high-class field in this marathon.
Cerrón looking so strong.
Well, in the male, we're looking for the lead in the wheelchair race. Rose Hill. Chris, you've coached her before, and she's had a good day today.
Yeah, I coached Rose up until the '94 World Championships. She did her best marathon time a few years ago of 1:43. She's obviously going to be a little bit behind that. We're looking at about 2:09 at the moment. Her course record, she actually holds the course record for the London Marathon at 2 hours and 3 minutes. So she's a little bit outside this, but she's looking good. She's been training well this year. She looked good in Florida earlier on in the year, and it looks like she's going to take her 3rd London Marathon victory.
So no ordinary housewife and mother from Milton Keynes, Rose, who's 40 years old now. And looking forward like so many others. We were talking about this before, Chris, about the Paralympics in Atlanta, and presumably all these marathon runners now, and including yourself, are going to be cutting down on the sort of distances, getting ready for the sprints and the track races and so on.
Yes, as with David Holden in the men's event, he's cutting right down, and he's going to concentrate on the 100 up to 1500.
So Rose Hill once again becomes the wheelchair marathon of London. A fantastic performance.
The leading man in the elite men's race approaching the final stages. Familiar route for him. He's been here twice before, won it twice before. Cerrón with a tremendous competitive record. Second place, working hard to stay there, is Rousseau. Paul Evans, we believe, battling it out with Kabiga, the young Kenyan, for third and fourth.
Well, Dionisio Serrone now in a position where he can just enjoy the last part of the race. They've run a very fast time, approaching 800 meters to go, and Dionisio Serrone, well, he was helped on his late run by Kabiga, the Kenyan, and he was delighted when that happened. He followed Kabiga and then began to stretch, and then he found that the race was being run for him. So the silver medalist and the world champion on his way to victory, while Paul Evans is battling out with Kabiga to try and get that bronze medal. And Paul, you can bet your bottom dollar that Paul is going to give every ounce of energy he's got. This is a good race by Paul Evans. He's run extremely well, but can he just do a little bit more to hang on to the Kenyan? He's hoping the Kenyan will slow a little, but the Kenyan is just drifting a yard and a half, 3 or 4 yards, and now 5 yards away, and Paul Evans is desperately trying to hang on there to third place.
The leader in Birdcage Walk. Have a look to see the gap between first and second, and there's Russo in the background. That shot may be a bit deceiving. Some foreshortening on that. But Serrano, the man who fell, was in the background somewhere there, in the distance. Well, the race still very close for third and fourth. Kabiga and Paul Evans. That New York Marathon run of Paul Evans has given him tremendous confidence. And he's having a go at the Kenyan now. Well, they've slowed in the second part of this race. It's not surprising in this heat. Temperature, we're told the temperature is now in the 70s. Serrone about to pass in front of Buckingham Palace for the third year in the lead in the London Marathon and on the way to victory. Mexico turning out a stream of good distance runners, but this one of the very best. He's the only man to have won the London Marathon twice. He's now gone one better and comes home in the 1996 Flora Marathon, the London winner for the third year running. Dionisio Serrone.
Well, that was an exceptional run by Serrone, and it just tells you about the weather, because it was 2 hours and 10 minutes to the finish. And there is Vincent Russo, who's run an exceptional race in these conditions. But I'm delighted to see in third place Paul Evans just holding off the Kenyan. It's going to be a dramatic finish there, but Paul, you can bet your bottom dollar, won't give up on that one.
So Russo, the top European, finishes in second place, the Belgian, and in third place, a determined finish by Paul Evans in front of his home crowd. Runs for Belgrave Harriers. And Kabiga, the Kenyan, only 19, is fourth. That's Serrano, who fell. And I think behind him we've got Castro. Good run by Serrano in fifth place after that fall. And he's not picked, by the way, for the Olympic Games. He's only reserved. In sixth place, Castro of Portugal. Couldn't go with the pace in the last 2 miles. That's Gary Staines, also of Belgrave. But now we're looking at Hallibrook, who's going to finish in 7th place. I think Gary Staines, when we saw him there, was in Birdcage Walk. Hallibrook, then of Belgium, a clear 7th. The Belgians who had 2 in the top 7. In 8th place, having had a bad patch at about 22 miles, looks like Benson Masher. And the second Briton in sight is Gary Staines in 9th place. Good run for Belgrave, Brendan. 2 in the first 10.
That's right, good run for Belgrave Harriers, and the patron of Belgrave Harriers, Eddie Kulakundis, who's helped a lot of these athletes, will be absolutely delighted with that. But a good personal best by Gary Staines, who told me yesterday that he was going to run today to find out if he was a marathon runner. He's been a pacemaker in the marathon for the last couple of years, and now the question is, am I a marathon runner? Well, 2 hours 12 on a day like this, you're a marathon runner now, Gary.
So Gary Staines in 9th place. And 3:08 is finishing is Öztürk of Turkey, or the leading female athletes, but not among the medals.
Well, the elite athletes are down the course, and as we look over the mile, beautiful sights of London. Performance by Liz McColgan, great performance in the men's race by Dionisio Serrant, become the 3rd-time winner. And whilst the conditions were conducive for watching the marathon, then they were difficult conditions for running a marathon.
Okay, now what's your name? Mr. Ness from Charter School. And pray tell, why are you dressed up as Superman on a hot day like this? Because I'm being sponsored for Great Ormond Street, and I had one large sum of £50. And I'm mad. You certainly are. It's so hot. How's the sun affecting you? It's like an oven, but I may be hot, but Lois Lane's hotter. You're nearly at the 17-mile mark. Do you think you're going to finish it? Yep, definitely. And how much money do you hope to raise? About £500. Yeah? Well, good luck. Keep going. You're nearly there.
Well, Richard Nash, his story, true of so many, still out on the course, and they're going to be out there for a lot longer.
Hi! Right, whose idea was this? What are you running for?
For children's cancer. Hoping to raise about £1,000.
Well, this costume can't be doing a lot in the heat.
Well, we swap over there now. She carries me for the second one.
Good luck. Well done.
Well, those athletes still with miles to go. Some 10-12 miles behind the leading runners. It's carnival time in the Isle of Dogs. And in so many of the other London streets.
You got me reeling, you got me rocking, you got me almost out of my mind. Please tell me that you love me, tell me that I'm weak.
Well, we just saw Robert Bowen, both bride and groom. There's a lady out there today called Angie Bushaway. She wanted to get married on the finish line of the race, but what she's settling for today is the fact that the marathon is her honeymoon. So we wish Angie the best of luck. 25,000 plus runners still out on the course, soaking up one of the great atmospheres in any event anywhere in the world.
The end of this first transmission for the marathon. A check on one or two results. The mini marathon run over the last 3 miles of the course for the boys and girls of the various London boroughs through which the marathon goes. There the